Welcome back to the 2024 Big Ten predictions, and before we get into it, I want to emphasize to everyone to subscribe to the channel. We have a lot of college basketball content coming over the next 2 weeks, and also all of these conference tournaments, bracketology, and bracket predictions. But let's get into it with the first round, where we've got Rutgers against Maryland, and both of these teams have not had the greatest seasons in Big 12 play. Maryland has lost 5 of 6 down the stretch. They are now a measly 15-16, while Rutgers is 15-16 as well. Same record in conference, and we get them in the 12-13 matchup. I'm going to take Maryland here. They are the better team. They've lost a lot of close games. Their last game at Penn State was a little bit of a head scratch with a 16-point loss, but they've played competitive games with some of these teams. Beat Rutgers by almost 20 points on the road. That's the only time these teams played this year. And I like Maryland. They were playing much better at the beginning of the season. We weren't sure if they would be a tournament team. Looked like they could be early on, but they have since declined. I think that they get back on track with a win against Rutgers here. Then not sure if Doug McDaniel is allowed to play in this because he had that weird home road suspension. But either way, I like Penn State. Michigan, I have power rated as the worst team in the Big Ten by about 5 points from every other team. Penn State seems to be rolling right now. Got that kind of fluky and lucky win against Illinois a couple weeks back, and they're starting to roll here. They've won 3 out of their past 5, which is pretty good for a team that's this far down. When they played Michigan this year, they won by 6 at home. So obviously it could go either way, but I like Penn State to get it done here against a Michigan team that is reeling. And even though they have a lot to play for in this Big Ten tournament, I'm pretty sure that they've just given up mentally. So let's go to the second round, where we've got Minnesota against Michigan State. And very disappointing team for a Michigan State team that was number 4 to start out the season. And I'm not really sure how they are still clinging onto the tournament bubble. They have that massive win over Indiana State, the more massive win over Baylor by 24 points, but losses to James Madison out of conference, and then they've just been abysmal in conference. 10-10 for Michigan State team that, you thought had gotten back on track after wins against Illinois, at Penn State, and then at Michigan, but then they come back and lose 4 out of 5 to end the season. Thank goodness they beat Northwestern in an ugly game there. They've lost 4 out of 5, and if they lose this one to a Minnesota team, mind you, they lost at Minnesota a couple weeks back. They split the season series, though. They won against Minnesota at home by 10. But Michigan State playing worse down the stretch here. Minnesota's a good story. They've covered a lot this year, which just means that they're outperforming expectations. Michigan State doing quite the opposite. Their expectations were way too high, but I like Michigan State. More talented team here. We'll see how Izzo is in this tournament setting. Usually he's good, but this season has just been abysmal. They have not gotten better throughout the year, and they've just pretty much been a kind of mid team throughout, but I like Michigan State to advance to the third round in quarterfinals there. We've got Maryland against Wisconsin. Wisconsin, another one of these teams that's just reeling right now. Remember when they were top 10 in the nation? And ever since they topped out with that win against Michigan State at home, they've lost 8 of their past 11, including an 8-point loss at Purdue, which they never really had a chance to win it. So when they played Maryland this year, only one time at home. This was actually during the bad part of their schedule when they became a much worse team. They actually did win by 4 points. I think that these teams are pretty similar in terms of a power rating perspective, so I'm going to take the value on the seed line. And if you're looking for an easy upset here, nothing's easy in these tournaments, but I think Maryland's going to get it done enough here to give you some value on that. Like, this spread should be 1 or 2, maybe in favor of Wisconsin, but Maryland, I don't want to play them after a win, and Wisconsin shouldn't either. I think this is a trap game for Wisconsin. I like Maryland to pull off the 12-5 upset. Then we've got Ohio State against Iowa. Iowa slides into the 7 after losing to Illinois on the last day of the season. And I'm going to actually take Ohio State as the 10. Ever since the coaching switch for Ohio State, they've been playing better. I think the underlying reason there is a little more sinister than this great story that everyone's talking about with interim coach Jake Diebler just being a great coach, but it's just really regression on the shooting end. You could say that their defense has improved. Maybe it has, But really, teams were just shooting the lights out against Ohio State during that stretch where they were losing, and now it's starting to regress back. I like that to continue. Iowa can't really put the ball in the bucket as much as I'd like, and I don't really need to see that Iowa-Illinois game again. I like Ohio State to advance here, maybe start to make a case for the NCAA tournament if they can stack some wins together there. Then we've got Penn State against Indiana. I like Penn State to pull off the upset here. Classic letdown spot after Indiana just beat a higher-ranked Michigan State team at home. Indiana, don't be fooled by their good record. Their net rating is trash because they really don't perform well against these bad teams. Well, guess who's coming knocking? It's Penn State. These teams are power rated pretty similarly. This spread should be pretty tight. I like Penn State to keep it rolling, pull off the upset against what should be a Indiana team that is looking ahead to that Nebraska game. Give me the Nittany Lions there. Then we've got 8 seed Michigan State against Purdue. And this is a tough draw for Purdue in the first round. You know, you've got that 8 seed, and then it happens to be a dangerous Michigan State team when they have it right. Obviously, Purdue had a great conference season. When they played Michigan State at home, they won by 6. Did not have to go into Sparty themselves. So I think that there is a decent probability of a bounce back and possibly a Michigan State win. I think that this one's close. Michigan State probably will cover. I'm not sure what the spread will be, maybe 10 to 12 there, as these Purdue spreads have started to get out of hand. But I like Purdue to win outright. They've just been playing better, and it is nearly impossible to stop them. Edey, when he's at his best, the guards, the shooting, everything, just seems like Purdue's the team to beat in the Big Ten. I like them to keep it going in the first round there. Then Maryland against Northwestern, and I like Northwestern to end this Maryland little run here. These teams, again, as I said with the Wisconsin game, this 4 through 12 teams in the Big Ten are pretty similar from a rating standpoint and a ranking standpoint. It's just the seed lines here. Maryland has a lot more talent and a lot more upside, but they've just been bad. If they even make it this far, I like Northwestern to end it for them. Northwestern, obviously, dealing with some injuries right now, but I like them to end the Terps run in its tracks there. Then Ohio State against Illinois. This is where I have it coming to an end for Ohio State. Unfortunate draw here. I think they'd have more success against Nebraska here. And they lost the one game they played against Illinois. This one was at home. They lost by 12. But that was during the losing streak when, things were just going wrong for this Ohio State team. I think this is another close match. Despite these seed discrepancies in this round, I think that there will be a lot of entertaining games. Maybe even one of the 4 goes to overtime, but I like Illinois to take care of business. Terrence Shannon Jr., Marcus Damask, the rest of this team, they just score at will. I think Ohio State's defense can improve here, but I don't know if they can put it in the bucket enough to beat a high-powered Illinois offense there. We've got Penn State, Nebraska, and I like Nebraska to end it for Penn State. Again, as I was saying with Maryland, with these teams on their 3rd game in 3 days, probably competitive, although I'm not sure that Michigan game will be. I like Nebraska to end it here if Penn State even makes it this far. I think Matt Hoiberg's squad is just better here, and they've obviously been very good at home, but I like the outlook on this Nebraska squad. They won 6 out of their past 7 to end the year here, and one was a massive 20-point win against Penn State in the one time that they played this year. Pretty good resume for this Husker squad. I look forward to seeing them in the semifinal against Illinois there. So then we've got Purdue Northwestern in a rematch of 2 great games. Both went to overtime. Both teams won at home when they were at home. But I like Purdue to shut the door here. If anyone's going to upset Purdue, I could see Michigan State doing it, but I could also see Northwestern doing it. Northwestern tends to play better against good teams here, and Purdue is certainly one of them. But I think without Ty Berry, with the injuries they're having, I think that should hamper their 3-point shooting. Not sure if they're as potent on the offensive end. I'll have to give the edge to Purdue here. But if Northwestern won this game, honestly, I wouldn't be all that surprised. And that being said, even if they do upset Purdue, I'd still be looking to back Purdue in the tournament because they've just been a wagon all year. Crazy things tend to happen in this Big Ten tournament. So on to Illinois against Nebraska, and Illinois is just the better team here by a few points. When these teams played, Illinois won by 3 at home in a surprisingly close game, and that was the only game that they had between each other. This over-under is going to be pretty high, I would assume here, and it's going to be an entertaining one to watch. I just like Illinois winning it more often here. So give me Illinois against Purdue in the final. And I feel like Illinois had their chance for the upset when they had Purdue at home, just kind of choked down the stretch against Purdue and lost by 6. And when they were at Purdue, it was only a 5-point game, so that was before all the Shannon shenanigans. But I like Purdue to win the third matchup. I could see it going either way, again, like I have said for a lot of these matchups, but I like Purdue there to just dominate. Should be pretty high scoring, should be an entertaining game. You get that on the Sunday. Not sure if it'll really affect the seeds as much as it should because the committee's given so little time. But let me know what you guys think of my predictions. Comment your predictions where you disagree, and like and subscribe to the channel.